We are
excited.
excited about the elaboration room.
I am excited about this.
Welcome to the Elaboration Room with Reverend Yo and Reverend Harris.
You're always doing that. Hello, everyone. Once again, thank you for joining us in the Elaboration Room with two sisters of one. Tonight, we have a very special guest with us. Mr. Harris is joining us tonight.
Woohoo!
Yes, because
Hello, everyone.
he
Hello,
threw a
hello, hello.
topic. He threw a topic at us, so we're gonna roll with it tonight.
Oh my goodness.
If you
Oh my
remember from our
goodness.
previous episodes, Mr. Harris is the husband of Sister T up there. So, hey, we got the tag team tonight, and they're actually going to be the ones that kick this off. I'll probably chime in just a little bit, but tonight is about them and communication. So, we are excited that you're here tonight. We're going to focus on something that many of us take for granted, but desperately need more of it, and that is communication.
Yes.
Every relationship, whether it's
Yes.
our families, our workplaces, our friendship, ministry work, communication is the foundation of talking to one another. Yet, far too often, we misunderstand one another because the answers aren't available or but because we simply don't talk. So, we're going to be talking tonight about communication. And instead of going straight to the source, Many people, many people go all around the other sources they want to talk to the mama, the daddy, the friend, the sister, instead of taking it to the main source. So, tonight, that's where we're going with this. So, we want to help you as we begin this one to challenge your mindset about what you're about to hear tonight. So, what if we choose clarity over confusion? We're going to choose communication over dysfunction. So that's where we're going with this tonight. Sis, in your court.
Oh goodness. Um, okay. I want to say, all right, you guys, this is our show. This is my husband, and I do not call him David. I call him Babe. So if that slips out every now and then, that's the way we communicate in our house. And I'm just sitting up here cracking up because, as always, when we have a little chit chat before we start recording, and we say, okay, who's going to start? Who's going to welcome us and do our little housekeeping and everything? Sis just went ahead and started this whole thing off. Did she not, babe? She just
Yes, she
started
did.
the
Yes, she did. I said, what do I have to say now? I can just walk away.
That's it. That's it. I'm like, pass the offering basket, say the benediction. It has been done.
Yeah, that's just like what I said one time. You could do a sermon in about 45 seconds and then just walk out in church early.
Well, our conversation at the beginning was started off and kick it off, and I'm just gonna jump in. So, in case y'all don't know, we just gonna be honest with y'all. This is one of those episodes where Mr. Harris, I don't call him Babe, I call him David, but I'm trying to be like, professional right now. Mr. David, no, just David. He didn't want us to give him anything to talk about. He just want to come straight with it. He said, just talking. I'm just gonna jump in. So y'all know that's how we go anyway. We feed off each other as we do these episodes. We work with the title that God has placed on our heart, and then we just run with it. So you're getting the same thing tonight. You're gonna get the silliness, you're gonna get the laughs. That's just how it's gonna be. We keep the show real. So
Well, I mean, if you really think about it, who puts a script together before they start talking to one another?
That's right. That's right. And you
Nobody puts
gave
a
us
script together. You say what's on your mind, and next thing you know, somebody's looking at you with cross-eyed or twisted, or something may not be right, and you say, "Oh, I may have said something they didn't like," and then you
but
have to
that's it.
straighten it out.
We always say, we always tell our viewers to give us a topic, share something, and we may talk about it on the episode. And you came up talking about communication. And I don't know what the scenario was that we were talking about. And I said, that's a great topic. That's a great topic. And then what you said behind it was really powerful. And so, but I just want our viewers to know
No,
So we
what?
tried to schedule him in. And he said, no, 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 no. I can't operate like that. Just catch me on the fly.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean catch you on the fly? Just when you're ready to record it, come and get me and
And we'll
we
talk.
will record it.
And we'll talk.
Yep.
And we will talk. We will communicate.
You know what happened was it was one of those mornings that I'm up at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it's time for my early morning coffee. And that's the first thing I don't drink water the first thing. I drink coffee. I don't care what anybody say. That's what I do.
I drink coffee first too.
So I understand. And I'm just thinking about what's been going on and what I've been through in my past. And I said, life would be so much easier if everybody just talked to one another. Just think about how many things that have went wrong because of misinterpretation of what someone has said, or no one is talking. One person is talking, the other person is just listening, and they're trying to interpret in their mind what you're speaking about, but they don't give you any feedback. And you just continue to talk and you continue to talk. And then the next thing you know, the person you're talking to is upset at you because you said something that they just didn't like. But when they had an opportunity to give you that feedback, they did not. And then they got it all twisted in what you meant. And they walked away from the conversation. The next thing you know, you guys are in conflict with one another because you just didn't communicate back and forth. It was a one-way conversation. And I was just thinking before I had my coffee, I said, wouldn't it be nice if you just had a conversation with somebody? I don't care if you're the president of the United States. I don't care if it's your wife, it's your brother, it's your sister, it's the company that you work for. Just imagine if you can go in there and have a conversation and discuss some things and then be able to come to some decisions after you both have consulted with one another in a conversation, how much easier things would go.
You
But
said
no,
something right there where you said, have a conversation and discuss some things. And as you were speaking and I was listening and thinking, when the conversation is just one person speaking and the other person is sitting there listening without asking a question, if it's something being said that they don't understand, or making a comment about something that is said that they don't agree with or believe in, that's where I think the situation can go awry.
that's right. That's absolutely right. And it could have all been avoided if it's a conversation. To me, is not one person talking.
Right.
First of all, if there's only one voice inside the room and the other person is just looking at you, you're not sure if that person is even listening to you. Matter of fact, you question if they're listening to you because they don't say anything. And I was just wondering, well, life would be so much easier if we could go back and forth and just have a little conversation. Just imagine some of the arguments you may have at home or out in your where you work at. I mean, I've had issues at work before where people just don't want to listen, or nobody have any. There's no conversation back and forth. So you walk out. You're the only one that says something. The next thing you know, you may have been said something that somebody didn't like. So um, as I start to think about it, I said a lot of the issues we have in this world that we live in today come from the lack of communications.
Mhm.
A lot of things could be avoided if everybody was just talk.
I think some of it is more to the point as well as people need to listen, understand, and not respond. Because when we're in the education world, we teach the kids to listen, and we teach them to listen by having them listen but not respond because we want them to listen to understand. So I think when people are talking, like it's one thing I like to do if it's a serious conversation and that's going on between the two, is I like to give the other person my full attention because I want the person to see that I am listening to understand what they're saying, and I try to avoid planning my response in my mind while a person is still talking because I like to listen, because a lot of the miscommunication comes when people don't listen
Correct.
what a person is saying, and then that's where that miscommunication comes in. And the second part of that misunderstanding of that communication come is when they assume what you were saying instead of asking for clarification of what you were saying. Because when people are talking, many people just fill in the blanks of what their own mind imagination of what you're
Correct.
saying. And then
Correct.
that's where the communication becomes miscommunication because all you had to do was ask me for clarification. Oh,
And
that'll
that's
preach.
true.
Hold up.
And United, the key thing you said is that you want to listen to understand what they're saying to you. But then you're going to give them a response back.
Yeah,
Hmm.
You're going to then give them feedback of what you heard.
that's it. And that's what I was thinking. Active listening means you're going to actively respond back what you believe you heard, and
That's right.
to make sure you're on the same page. And then that takes away the misunderstanding.
But the issue comes in is when you don't get the feedback. Then where does it go? Does it go to, and then you part ways with that person. You leave the room or you leave the office or wherever you had that meeting. But then the next thing you know, you you go back and meet with them again. It's like you never had a conversation at all.
Because
Or
they didn't understand you in the first place and they didn't let you know that.
they didn't understand, or either they didn't understand you in the first place, or they just wanted to take in information from you to rebut what you said at a later date.
Hmm.
But
See,
that's where the misunderstanding comes from, and the misunderstanding increases because the person became silent, but that often means they left their own fill in the blanks to their assumptions instead of communicating with you, or a person, not you, but instead of communicating with the person for the understanding and the clarity of
mhm,
what they were saying, because that whole week while individuals are apart, some people just play things over and over and over again in their mind of the assumptions of what they thought you said instead of asking for clarification, because that clarification, like I said, it breeds that confusion and that misinterpretation. And that's where the problem in communication lands.
yeah, it's a tough one because as I think back, some people are intimidated also.
Yes.
Some people are intimidated with conversation.
Mm.
Um, and I look back over my past and I say, I wonder what did people think, or what do people think about the way I communicate? Because my job was all based on communication. I mean, I'm an engineer by trade, but I had the opportunity to meet with people at higher levels than I, and also at lower levels. And when you have to communicate up higher, you do communicate a little bit different than you do when you communicate down. I like communicating down to the younger people or to the people who I'm in charge of, because I will use my type of language I really want to use to get them to understand what we're trying to achieve at a certain time. And they seem to get it. Upper management or whoever it may be that you're communicating with, you got to be on your P's and Q's, and you kind of watch what you say. You try to be politically correct, but sometimes you just have to be you.
You are.
You have to be you. And
Mhm.
I've done that a couple of times, and I'm quite sure I raised some eyebrows in the boardroom or in any office I was in, but they got the point. Because sometimes you can try to be so politically correct. Then the next thing you know, you walk out of there and they really didn't understand what you was trying to tell them. So, when I go back and I think about it, and I think about what's going on in the world today, I think about what's going on in the world today, and I look at what people really want to hear and what did they actually hear, and they will really overlook what they actually heard. They will overlook it to justify the reasoning why they did what they did.
Yep.
To put someone in the, and I'm talking about I'm going to the highest level of our government to justify what they wanted. And they just overlooked what was being said. The man said what he was going to do.
Clearly.
The man said what he was going to do.
Clearly.
That's the only thing that he hasn't lied about.
Yep.
He has said what he was going to do, and he has done it.
Yeah.
So he communicated. But were they listening?
Or hearing what they wanted to hear?
They heard what they wanted to hear. That's right. They made it up. So, here in the Harris house, we have a way of communicating. We just say what we want to say.
Well, as long as you are speaking truth, it should be easy to understand.
Yes.
That's the best form of communication, whether you are speaking down or speaking up. As long as you are sharing, you said just be yourself. Yes, be yourself, share your truth, and make it purposefully the words you are saying in your communicating. And that should be fine. It should be fine.
It should be, but we all know that when you're in the work atmosphere and you work for a corporation or something like that you have to be watchful of the way you present yourself, especially being a Black man. You have to be very careful of the way you present yourself. And when you're presenting upward, most of the time you go in there with a presentation in your hand and you're presenting to them. Very seldom if I'm able to sit down in this type of form and just have conversations. They normally would have a presentation written up and we'll go over it. But in that presentation, there's the way I've learned to do it and the way we were actually trained by a professional communication person for the company is let the people know what you want. When you go in there, because you only have them really for about 15 to 20 minutes of attention. After that, they're gone. You lose people. And you just tell them, this is what you're trying to accomplish, and this is what I want you to focus on during your presentation. And feel free to ask questions at that time. If it's one of my points that I want you to really focus on, because at the end of the meeting, I need decisions to be made. I'm not there to just chat. I need decisions. And most of the time, my decisions involve money from the corporation to do certain things. So you just tell them what you're looking for and you explain it to them and you have that conversation back and forth that way. Yeah. Now, and there's different forms of communication. You have your work communication, you have your home communication, then you have your communication with your children. And that right there I've learned that's a little bit different because as they grow and their lives grow, they change. And they tend to communicate a little bit less as they get a little bit older.
The Elaboration Room with two sisters of one. Make sure you like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode every Monday at 6 p.m.